Hi, good evening everybody. Welcome to lesson 4 in this series, Decoding Algebra. In today's session, we will discuss, continue our discussion on quadratic equations. I'm sure some of you attended our session yesterday where I introduced quadratic equations. We learned how to solve it. We looked at a few problems around sum and product of rules, and so today we'll take that discussion forward. Before we do so, here is a brief look at my profile. As you can see, my name is Anand Venkatesan. I am Bangalore alumnus. I've done my engineering from VIT Vellore and then went on to do my postgrad from IIM Bangalore. I have about a decade's worth of experience in training for CAT, the quant and the verbal sections, and I've scored a 99 percentile many times, including in the last time in CAT 2018. Right, so here's what I intend to do in today's session. We'll look at the basic properties of the quadratic function with regard to the nature of its roots. We will then analyze it from a graphical perspective, get some insights based on how the quadratic polynomial is graphed and how it undergoes sign changes, and we'll put all of this together in problem types. Okay, but before we go ahead, do join us on YouTube. Obviously you're watching this from one of the Unacademy channels, but the main channel that I'd want you to join, subscribe to, is CAT4MBA. Join our Telegram channel, that's CAT4MBA, and down below is my Unacademy channel. Here's where I upload my schedules on a daily basis, right? So do keep a tab of that. Here are a couple of batches that are starting today on the Unacademy app. The complete weekday batch for CAT 2021 led by Ronak sir, and the absolute batch for CAT 2021 led by Udit, Shabana and Ria ma'am. Another very interesting offering is the iconic CAT batches, right, mentored by the very best of B School mentors, but also something called the Ask a Doubt feature, which is to me a very phenomenally useful feature, because what it allows you to do is it allows you to submit your doubts. All you need to do is take a photograph from your mobile phone or your tablet, take a photograph of the question, maybe a screenshot, crop that particular portion of the image which contains the question and the option choices, and submit that. And once that happens, give us a day to sort of some time to process that doubt. But you will definitely hear from us with regard to the solution, right? So that's something you can try out. But all of this, whether it's the batch or it's the Ask a Doubt feature, is available if you subscribe on our platform, right? So I really think that you guys should join the Unacademy app by subscribing. These are the plans available to you. You can see that plans go from 1 month all the way till 24 months. The ones that I've highlighted are really the ones that I would recommend, because these are the ones where you get sufficient time to prepare, right? Don't forget to use my referral code AV01, because that gives you a 10% discount on any of these subscription plans. All right, enough of an intro. Let's start with today's session. That's quadratic equations. We'll learn how to deal with nature of roots, and then also to deal with graphs and sign changes. Oops. Okay, to begin with, for a quadratic equation ax square plus bx plus c, I hope you guys remember that the roots, yesterday we learned the discriminant method tells me the roots are minus b plus minus root d by 2a, right? D is the discriminant, b square minus 4ac. Now the first question that you want to ask yourself is, when will the roots exist, right? And clearly the moment you start to ponder that and you look at this expression, it becomes apparent. The expression contains two things which I believe are constraints, right? One is that there is a denominator. So clearly the denominator a cannot be 0, because the moment denominator becomes 0, the root will be in the 1 by 0 form, which is not a real number, right? So a cannot be 0. The second condition is that it contains a square root, so whatever is inside the square root should not be negative, right? So d should not be negative. D must be greater than 0 or equal to it for the roots to exist, right? So these are the conditions for roots to exist. Well, to be frank, the first condition is kind of superfluous, because what happens if a is 0? You look at the original equation, if a is 0, then this term will vanish, which means what was a quadratic has actually become a linear equation. So I mean, that's kind of unreal. So that rarely happens, right? So as long as it's a valid quadratic equation, the coefficient of x square is not 0. All we need to ensure is that the discriminant is not negative, right? But if you look at the three possibilities, then you can think either that discriminant is negative, it's 0, or it's positive, and these three will throw up, three different unique cases, right? Either when d is negative, the roots will not exist, the roots will be imaginary. When d is 0, then both roots will become minus b by 2a, which means both roots exist but are equal. And finally, when d is positive, then what happens is that the roots don't just exist, aren't just real, but they are distinct, they are different from each other, right? So unequal roots. Those are the three possibilities. We'll look at each of these possibilities in a little more detail. Let's start with the graph, right? Now we'll try and understand this from a graphical perspective. Sure, we know that the condition for roots to exist is that discriminant must be greater than or equal to 0, but ग्राफ से थोड़ा समझते हैं. सबसे पहले ग्राफ को थोड़ा रिकैप करते हैं, राइट? व्हाट इज अ ग्राफ? व्हाट इज द यूजफुल इंफॉर्मेशन दैट आई कैन ग्लीन फ्रॉम द कर्व ऑफ अ पॉलिनोमियल, राइट? y इज इक्वल टू एफ एक्स का अगर मैं ग्राफ बनाता हूं तो उससे मुझे क्या क्या इंफॉर्मेशन मिल सकता है, इनसाइट्स क्या क्या मिल सकते हैं? वेल, फर्स्ट एंड फॉरमोस्ट यू कैन गेट the x-intercept, right? Remember what an x-intercept is? The point where the curve intersects the x-axis, right? X-intercept is the point where the curve intersects the x-axis, right? So wherever the curve, let's say this is a curve, and wherever the curve intersects the x-axis will be where the polynomial is 0, right? Y is equal to fx. If you put, if the curve intersects the x-axis, then y would be 0, which means fx is 0, right? So the polynomial itself is 0 at these points, right? Which means for a quadratic equation, that would mean that the quadratic is 0, so it's the root, right? So the x-intercepts are either the zeros of the polynomial, or if it's an equation, then it's probably a root, right? Number one. Number two, the moment you can plot the curve, a glance at the curve will also tell you, the shape of the curve will also tell you where will the function attain a maximum or a minimum value, whether it's a local maxima or global maxima. Local maxima would be in a particular range, where is it taking the maximum value, but global maximum would be in all points in its domain, where is the maximum value of the function, right? So maxima or minima, whether local or global, can easily be observed from the curve. And the third thing is that you can also observe sign changes, right? इसको थोड़ा सा समझ लेते हैं. What do I mean by sign changes? So let's say this is the polynomial, and here's what the graph looks like, right? For a polynomial f of x, right? Now know that along the x-axis you're plotting the independent variable x, but along the y-axis you're plotting the function value, right? So essentially, if you consider any point on the curve, इस point का अगर मैं x-axis पे perpendicular drop करता हूँ, so this will denote the x coordinate, right? This will be x1. If the coordinates of the point are x1, y1, then x1 will be the distance of that point, from the y-axis, but y1 will be the distance of the point from the x-axis, right? This will be y1, right? The point where the curve intersects the distance of the curve from the x-axis will be the y coordinate. Now what happens when you consider the x-intercept? तो सबसे पहले x-intercept पे y coordinate 0 है, which is why the function itself is 0, right? But before it reaches this point, at all of these points, the y coordinate will be positive. Can you see that the curve is above the x-axis? मतलब उसका y coordinate positive आएगा, और अगर y coordinate positive है तो function का value positive है, right? So in this region, the function fx will be positive, right? In this region, the function value will be positive, right? Now consider this region. Since the curve, right, between these 2 points, you consider the curve here, right? In this region, fx will be negative. How do I know this? Because if you consider any point on the curve, it lies below the x-axis. मतलब उसका y coordinate नेगेटिव होगा। और अगर मैं इस इंटरसेक्शन पॉइंट के राइट पे चला जाऊं तो अगेन यू नोटिस द कर्व लाइज अबव द एक्स एक्सिस, व्हिच मींस द कर्व विल बी positive. So any curve, if you plot, the region where the curve lies above the x-axis will be positive. The region where it lies below the x-axis will be negative, right? So plotting the curve gives me these three useful bits of information. It tells me where does the curve intersect the x-axis. That's where the function is 0. It tells me where will maxima or minima points occur. You know, wherever the curve sort of goes up and or goes down and rebounds, that will be the point of local maxima or minima. And third thing, it tells me the sign change, right? It tells me where was it positive, where is it negative, and where did the sign change happen, right? Okay, I hope that's clear to everybody. Let me move on. Now we try and apply this understanding. Yes, Sanjana, this is going to be quite useful for even the IP Math. So do join this, do continue with this session. So quadratic function की बात करते हैं. For a quadratic function y is equal to ax square plus bx plus c. इसको quadratic function क्यों बुला रहे हैं? इसको quadratic equation क्यों नहीं बोल रहे हैं? सबसे पहले इसमें equal to 0 नहीं है, इसमें दो variables हैं y और x, right? So this is like a polynomial. y will store the value of the quadratic polynomial. This is the polynomial और polynomial का value कहाँ store हो रहा है? Polynomial का value y में store हो रहा है और इसका मैं graph बनाता हूँ. So what do I know about the quadratic graph, right? Graph for the quadratic function. Well, these are the things that I know. One, I know that the graph for a polynomial will be, is this called the wavy curve method? I'm not sure if it's called the wavy curve method. It's a, this discussion applies for any curve, right? Not least for the quadratic. And I'm not sure I don't think it's called the wavy curve. I think it's, the sign changes is usually the technical way of mentioning this. ठीक है, तो quadratic की बात करते हैं. For a quadratic, the shape of the curve is always going to be a parabola, right? As long as you have y is equal to ax square plus bx plus c, you should know that it's going to be a parabola that either opens upwards or opens downwards, and the condition for that depends on a. Right? What is a? The coefficient of x square. मतलब x square के पहले अगर positive value है तो curve ऊपर की तरफ open होगा, right? The curve will look like this. But if the coefficient of x square, that is a, is negative, then the curve will open downwards, right? So these are the two possibilities. Number two, where do I get the x-intercept, right? X-intercept मतलब x-axis को intersect कर रहा है, मतलब y को 0 डालेंगे. अगर आप y को 0 डालोगे, then ax square plus bx plus c will be 0. And if you solve ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0, you'll get roots. So where will the roots be? The roots will be where the quadratic equation intersects the x-axis. तो मतलब अगर मुझे कर्व ये पता है, ऐसा है क्वाड्रेटिक का कर्व, and if this is the x-axis, then these 2 points will be the roots alpha and beta, है ना? उल्टा भी होगा तो भी जहां पे भी intersect करेगा x-axis को, those points will be alpha and beta, the roots of that quadratic equation. Third thing, maxima minima की जहां तक बात है, well, as long as you know the sign of a, as long as you know whether a is positive or not. If a is positive, you know that it has a maxima, right? Sorry, it will have a minima. क्योंकि a अगर positive होगा तो कर्व ऐसा बनेगा, अगर कर्व ऐसा बन रहा है तो सबसे lowest point मिलेगा मुझे, that will be the minima, right? On the other hand, when a is negative, I know the curve will be inverted, a parabola inverted, and an inverted parabola will have a maxima. That's the point at the zenith of this curve, right? तो maxima minima का information भी a से समझ में आ जाएगा, कर्व के शेप से समझ में आ जाएगा, upwards opening है ये, डाउनवर्ड ओपनिंग है, उससे समझ में आ जाएगा, राइट? एंड फाइनली इफ यू टॉक अबाउट साइन चेंजेस फॉर अ क्वाड्रेटिक, राइट, लुक एट दिस केस वेयर a is positive. What will the sign be before alpha? Alpha के लेफ्ट में the curve is always above the x-axis, the curve will be positive before it reaches alpha. When it reaches alpha, the curve is 0, right? The value of the function is 0, and after I cross alpha, between alpha and beta, the curve, the function itself will be negative, and after beta it will come back to positive. तो मतलब अगर मैं a greater than 0 वाला consider करूं केस, तो the signs will be first positive till it reaches the root, then negative between the two roots, and then positive after the second root, right? And the same signs, when you consider the second possibility where A is negative, the sign will be negative, then it becomes positive, and then it comes back to negative, right? So either it's going to be plus minus plus or it's going to be minus plus minus, right? मेरा suggestion रहेगा कि आप ये याद रख लो, right? Just remember plus minus plus for A greater than 0 and minus plus minus for A less than 0, right? Just knowing that, knowing the sequence of signs will really be useful, right? अभी question को जब हम questions discuss करेंगे, then this will become a little more clearer to you. But for now, just take it from me that knowing the signs will be useful. Actually, अगर आपको signs याद नहीं भी होते तो भी derive कर सकते हैं, right? And we'll learn that with inequalities as well. But it's just faster if you remember plus minus plus, yeah, minus plus minus. These are the only two possibilities, right? So not very hard to remember, right? Next up, we'll talk about the nature of roots, right? So we'll plot the quadratic curve for all three cases, right? What happens? First case, D is negative. What happens if D is negative? I know that when D is negative, there are no roots. The roots are not real, right? And if I know that the curve intersects the x-axis at its roots, when the roots don't exist, the curve won't intersect the x-axis, है ना? तो curve ऐसा बनेगा, या तो upward opening parabola होगा या downward opening parabola होगा. If it's an upward opening parabola that doesn't intersect the x-axis, it must always be above the x-axis. If it's a downward opening parabola that does not intersect the x-axis, देखो x-axis को intersect करे बिना curve को मुझे नीचे ही रखना पड़ेगा x-axis के, right? ऊपर रखूंगा तो कहीं ना कहीं तो intersect हो ही जाएगा ना. If you keep it like this and you plot the curve like this, extend करके कहीं ना कहीं वो intersect कर जाएगा, right? So the only possibility is either the curve is wholly above the x-axis or wholly below it. Yeah, and now this gives me some useful information. This tells me something. What does it tell me? In the first graph, you can see all the points are above the x-axis. So this curve, will be always, this polynomial is always positive, right? So when is a polynomial always positive, right? आपको रटने का जरूरत नहीं है, but you should be able to figure it out, right? When will a quadratic always be positive? If its discriminant is negative and the coefficient of x square is positive, right? It should be an upward opening parabola with no intersection point, right? Upward opening if A is positive, no root if D is negative, right? When is a quadratic always negative? When it doesn't intersect the x-axis, that is D is negative, and it opens downwards, so A is also negative, right? So ये combinations में आपको पता होना चाहिए that the curve, the quadratic itself is either always positive or always negative, right? Similarly, when you consider the case where D is 0, देखो D is equal to 0 में क्या होता है? आपको पता है when discriminant is 0, then the equation will have equal roots, right? Which means that there won't be 2 points of intersection. The curve will just about touch it at 1 point, not at 2 points. It will touch. It won't intersect, right? Basically, x-axis will be like a tangent to the curve, right? And what that means is that the polynomial, it can still never be negative, but the exception now is that it can be 0 at that 1 point, right? At all other points it will be positive. It can also be 0 at 1 point, which means the polynomial will be either always non-negative or always non-positive. Non-negative कब होगा? जब A positive है और D 0 है, और non-negative कब होगा? Sorry, non-negative होगा जब A positive है और D 0 है, और non-positive कब होगा? जब A negative है और discriminant 0 है. And final case, discriminant is positive. I think this we've already discussed. The curve intersects at 2 points. These 2 points will be alpha and beta, right? And now a useful point here is that alpha and beta being these 2 points, and looking at the symmetry of the polynomial of the parabola, आपको पता है कि ये जो point minima वाला होगा, ये alpha और beta के बिल्कुल midpoint पे होगा, right? And what is the midpoint of alpha and beta? The midpoint will be alpha plus beta by 2. And what is alpha plus beta for a quadratic? It will be minus b upon a. So minus b upon 2a is the point of the minima or the point of maxima, right? Minima है कि maxima है, किस पे डिपेंड करेगा? Minima तब होगा जब a पॉजिटिव होगा, और maxima तब होगा जब a नेगेटिव होगा, right? So the same value will also tell me pointer maxima and pointer minima. Very, very easily you can derive that, right? Okay. अच्छा, let's try and apply what we've learned, right? एक बार quickly recap करते हैं क्या क्या सीखा हमने. Quadratic का curve पता है मुझे, parabola होगा. We know the parabola can be opening upwards or downwards. That depends on A. We know it can intersect the x-axis or not. That depends on the discriminant. And that will also tell me whether the sign changes or not, right? The sign will not change if the discriminant is negative. It will be either always positive or always negative. It will change only if there are two intersection points, and between those, and if there are two intersection points, that happens when discriminant is positive, then the signs will be plus minus plus or minus plus minus, right? Chalo, ab isko let's try and use this information to answer these questions, right? Look at question number 1. The shape of the curve y is equal to x square minus 8x plus 18 will be represented by which of the 4 options? What do you guys think? Which of these option choices represents the curve for the given equation, for the mentioned equation? तो curve कैसे निकलेगा इसका, है ना? तो मुझे immediately question देख लेना चाहिए, right? What I'll notice is एक parabola ऐसा है, I know it will intersect at 2 points. This will have real roots. This parabola does not have real roots. This parabola and this parabola is literally the same, right? कोई difference नहीं है. और ये वाला जो parabola है, इसके भी roots हैं, right? इसके roots नहीं है. तो roots होंगे कि नहीं होंगे किससे समझ में आएगा? सबसे पहले मैं x square का कोफिशिएंट देखता हूँ. A is greater than 0, so the parabola should open upwards, right? So downward वाले दोनों parabolas reject कर दो. B और A और C, A and C can straight away be rejected, right? Number 2, does the parabola that open upward, does it intersect the x-axis or does it not? What does that depend on? It depends on D. Discriminant positive है कि negative है? Discriminant इसका क्या है? Minus 8 square, that's 64. Minus 4 into 1 into 18. Minus 4 into 18. 18 into 4 is 72, right? So I'm getting minus 8. And since D is negative and A is positive, I know that the curve will always lie, will not intersect the x-axis. In fact, it will always lie above the x-axis. So above the x-axis, matlab answer, right answer here is B. Yeah. I hope that is making sense. I hope that you guys are able to figure this one out, right? Let's look at question number 2, right? The second problem. What do you think? If one root of this curve is 4 and another equation is given and we're told that that equation has equal roots, then what can you find the value of q, right? तो यहाँ पे दो pieces of information दिया हुआ है. एक तो root दिया हुआ है मुझे 4 और दूसरा दिया हुआ है equal roots हैं इस equation के. तो दोनों conditions apply करते हैं. If you know the root, then root का definition क्या होता है? F of x must be equal to 0, right? Basically it must satisfy this equation. If you put x equal to 4 here, right? If I put x equal to 4 here, I'll get 16 plus 4p plus 12 must become 0, right? So what will I get for p? P will be minus 28 divided by 4, that's minus 7. So ये equation क्या बनेगा? X square minus 7x plus q equals 0. Now this equation is supposed to have equal roots. When does a quadratic have equal roots? Equal roots if the discriminant is 0, right? The roots are equal if the discriminant is 0. इसका discriminant क्या होगा? B square, that's 49 minus 4ac minus 4q, right? This should be 0, which means I'll get q as 49 by 4. Is that there in the option choices? Sure there is. That is option A. Yep. Fairly straightforward, right? No need to use the curve, but बिल्कुल master करना पड़ेगा मुझे. Okay, here is something with a little more application. A quadratic function attains a maximum of 3, right? अब ये 3 जो दिया हुआ है ये क्या है? This is the function value, right? Function बोलो या polynomial का value बोलो, right? That is given to me as 3, right? So consider fx or consider fx equal to ax square plus bx plus c equal c, right? Or nothing as equal to 0. सो इस क्वाड्रेटिक फंक्शन का मैक्सिमा आ रहा है 3 पे. सबसे पहले मैक्सिमा एग्जिस्ट करता है. मैक्सिमा कब एग्जिस्ट करता है किसी क्वाड्रेटिक का? व्हेन इट्स ए वैल्यू. मैक्सिमा एग्जिस्ट करेगा जब कर्व इन्वर्टेड होगा, राइट, ओपनिंग डाउनवर्ड्स होगा. एंड व्हेन डज द कर्व ओपन डाउनवर्ड्स? व्हेन इट्स ए इज नेगेटिव, राइट. सो आई नो a less than 0, but I also know that the maximum value is 3 and that occurs at x equal to 1, right. Now if you remember the maxima minima logic that we discussed, we said maxima will occur at x equal to alpha plus beta by 2, so minus b by 2a, right. I hope you remember this. The maxima occurs at alpha plus beta का half, right. Alpha plus beta क्या होता है? माइनस बी बाई ए. तो माइनस बी बाई ए अपॉन 2 विल बी माइनस बी बाई 2a, राइट. सो आई कैन इक्वेट दिस टू 1. आई विल से माइनस बी अपॉन 2a इज 1, विच मीन्स b इज इक्वल टू नेगेटिव ऑफ 2a, राइट. इसको नोट करके रख लेते हैं साइड में, राइट. एंड वी ऑल्सो नो दैट द फंक्शन वैल्यू इज 3, तो मतलब x इक्वल टू 1 डालोगे तो f ऑफ 1 मस्ट बी 3, right. So f of 1 will be a plus b plus c, so that's known to me as 3. I also know b is equal to, so I have two equations in the three variables at a, b and c. I've gotten two conditions. और क्या दिया हुआ है? Value of fx, I'm sorry, ये दिया हुआ है value of function at x equal to 0 is 1, right. तो मुझे दिया हुआ है f of 0 is 1, right. f of 0 क्या होगा? ये 0 हो जाएगा x इक्वल टू 0 डालने पे, ये भी 0 हो जाएगा, तो f of 0 will be c and that's given to me as 1, right? So I know c is 1. If I use that in this previous equation, then I'll get a plus b is equal to 3 minus c, that's 3 minus 1, 2. तो a plus b is 2. इसमें पहला वाला कंडीशन भी डाल देते हैं. If b is equal to minus 2a, a minus 2a is equal to 2, which means a will be equal to negative of 2. And if a is negative of 2, b should be equal to 4, राइट. तो ए भी आ गया, बी भी आ गया और सी भी आ गया. क्वेश्चन क्या बोल रहा है? फाइंड द वैल्यू ऑफ एफ एक्स इक्वल टू एट एक्स इक्वल टू 10. वी वांट एफ ऑफ 10. एफ ऑफ 10 क्या होगा? ए एक्स स्क्वायर, दैट्स 100a प्लस 10b प्लस c, राइट. लेट मी यूज द वैल्यूज ऑफ a, b and c that I have determined. a is minus 2, so this becomes minus 200. b is equal to 4, so that's 4 into 10, that's plus 40. Plus c, which is 1, right. So I'm getting minus 160 plus 1 is minus 159, right. That's option A, right. Does that make sense? मैक्सिमा से डायरेक्टली मैंने कंडीशन निकाल ली. मैक्सिमा से मुझे इक्वेशन मिल गया एक, x और a और b में एक रिलेशनशिप मिल गई मुझे. ओके. Here's the next question. For what value of p will the roots of this equation be equal? What value of p will the roots be equal? Right? So think about it. When are roots equal? When are roots equal to each other? When discriminant is 0, right? Only then the roots will be equal to each other. Roots equal मतलब d equal to 0. d equal to 0 मतलब b square, ये है ना b, ये a है 3 square और ये c है 4. So roots are equal means b square minus 4ac should be equal to 0. b square क्या होगा? 27 times 3 power 1 by p minus 15 whole squared minus 4 into 3 square into 15, sorry, into 4, right. So this should be equal to 0, right. तो ये a square minus, अब इसको ऐसे लिख सकते हैं ना, 27 times 3 power 1 by 3, sorry 1 by p minus 15 the whole squared minus, this can be written as 12 the whole square, and 4 into 4 16 into 9 144, that is 112 square, right. तो इसमें अगर मैं a square minus b square का आइडेंटिटी लगाऊं तो it will be a plus b, that's like 27 into 3 power 1 by p, this a minus b, so minus 15 minus 12, that's minus 27 into a plus b, that will be 27 to the power 27 into 3 power 1 by p minus 15 plus 12. So that will become minus 3. Right? So if roots are equal, then a square minus b square, right? B square minus 4ac must be 0. In case mein, this is what it breaks down into, right? Which means that either the first term is 0 or the second term is 0. Let's check it out. First term 0 कब होगा जब 27 times something, 27 times 3 power 1 by p should be equal to 27. That's when this bracket becomes 0, right? And when does that happen? When 3 power 1 by p is equal to 1, right? And when does that happen? When the power is 0, which means 1 by p equal to 0, and that doesn't really give me anything to work with, so no solution. How about the second case? The second case is that this is equal to 0, right? So how about if 27 into 3 power 1 by p minus 3 were not equal to 27, right? In fact, they weren't. Right? If you equate this to, sorry, ये वाला bracket गलत, हाँ सही जगह डाला है, ठीक है. If this should be 0, then 3 power 1 by p must be equal to 3 by 27. That's like 1 by 9. So that's 3 power minus 2, which means 1 by p is minus 2, or p will be equal to minus 1 by 2. Right? So first case is not possible, no solution at all. Second case happens when p is equal to minus half. And isn't that the question? What is the value of p? Answer is option C. Right? Okay, let's go ahead. Here's the next question. If only one value of x were to satisfy this quadratic equation, kx square minus 3kx plus 9 equals 0, right? There's only one value that solves, right? What is the value of x that satisfies an equation? It's called a root, right? So it basically says that there is only one root. And when does one root happen? One root happens when the discriminant of a polynomial, of a quadratic polynomial, is 0. So इसका discriminant 0 होना चाहिए. B square, that's minus 3k का whole square minus 4 into AC, 4 into k into 9 should be equal to 0. Right? So that's like 9k square minus 36k should be 0. So I can take 9k common into k minus 4 equals 0. So when does this product be equal to 0? Either when k is 0 or when k is 4. Right? Find the value of k. K can take any of these two values. Obviously k equal to 0 won't be allowed, because then both these two terms will go away. It won't be a polynomial at all. It will be a constant. Right? So you normally won't allow that to happen. So the one that you will enter should be k equal to 4. Okay, here is another exercise, another problem from today's exercise. This one says the function is given 3x square minus 2x plus 1. तो मैं इसको directly ही y is equal to this या fx equal to this लिख सकता हूँ. So let me write it as fx. So fx will be equal to 3x square minus 2x plus 1. And the question asks me, is it increasing or is it decreasing? It is neither, or is there another? Is that there is no way to predict the same, right? So ये choices से मुझे figure out करना है. And the question asks me to figure this out in a particular range, minus infinity to 1 by 3, right? तो सबसे पहले f of, इसको मैं 2-3 तरीके हैं जिसमें solve कर सकते हैं. इसमें एक तो हमें किसको factorize ही कर लें. Is it possible for me to factorize it? Well, actually no, right? और इसका d क्या है वैसे भी? इसका discriminant क्या है? इसका discriminant है b square 4 minus 4ac minus 4 into 3. तो इसका discriminant तो आ गया negative, है ना? Minus 12 plus 4 is minus 8. So d is negative, right? And when d is negative, then no real roots, right? So what happens in this condition? Is it increasing or is it decreasing? Now to figure out, right, unfortunately I need to figure out whether 1/3, I know कि इस फंक्शन का पॉलिनोमियल का कर्व d नेगेटिव है और a पॉजिटिव है ना. तो मुझे पता है कि इसका कर्व अपवर्ड ओपनिंग होगा और x एक्सिस के हमेशा ऊपर होगा, बट फिर भी आपको पता है कि till the point of minima I know it will be decreasing and after the point of minima it will be increasing, है ना. तो मुझे रेंज, मतलब ये जो दिया हुआ है डोमेन -∞ to 1/3, उस रेंज में क्या है ये निकालना है, राइट. ऑल्टरनेटिवली मैं इसका मिनिमा निकाल सकता हूं. तो मिनिमा निकालने का एक जो डायरेक्ट तरीका होता है वो तो मैक्सिमाइज मिनिमाइज जो हम डिफरेंशिएशन से कर सकते हैं, है ना. एक तरीका तो ये है डायरेक्टली f' कर लो. f' क्या आएगा, 6x - 2, और इसको 0 कर देंगे तो x = 1/3 आ जाता है. तो मुझे पता है x = 1/3 विल बी वेयर द कर्व अटेन्स इट्स मिनिमा, है ना. f" देख भी लोगे तो is 6, right? Since this is a positive value, this implies that there must be a minima, not a maxima, and that minima will occur at x = 1/3. So if this is the minimum point, x = 1/3, so then till I reach x = 1/3, from -∞ to that, the curve will always be decreasing, है ना. ऑप्शन बी होना चाहिए आंसर. तो ये तो बात हमने डिफरेंशिएशन से करा है. Is there another way of figuring out the minima? Well, yes. For quadratic polynomials, there is one more method called completing the squares. There's one more method called completing the squares. Here's how it works, right? So you are saying this is 3x square. तो 3 कॉमन ले लेते हैं सबसे पहले. तो 3 into x square minus 2/3x plus 1/3. Right? तो इसको अब कंप्लीटिंग द स्क्वायर्स में a + b होल स्क्वायर या a - b होल स्क्वायर बनाना है. यहाँ पे a² - 2ab दिख रहा है, तो a² - 2 into a into 1/3 आ रहा है. तो मतलब दिस मस्ट बी b², है ना. और अगर ये b² है तो सॉरी 2ab, ये b होना चाहिए, राइट. और अगर ये b है तो b² होगा 1/9. इसको सब्ट्रैक्ट भी कर देते हैं और 1/3 वैसा का वैसा ही छोड़ देते हैं जो पहले से ही था, राइट. And now if I consider the bracket, this is actually nothing but 3 into x minus 1/3 the whole square plus 1/3. है ना. तो जैसे ही मैंने कंप्लीट द स्क्वायर कर लिया और मैं इसको ऐसे लिखता हूं, फॉर एग्जांपल आई राइट दिस एज 3 times x minus 1/3 whole square plus 1, ब्रैकेट ओपन करके. अगर मैं इसको ऐसे लिखता हूं तो मैं कहूंगा ये एक परफेक्ट स्क्वायर है, which is never negative, which means the minimum it can take, the minimum value it can take can only be 0, right? Which means there is a minima. And where is that minima happening? When this becomes 0. When does this become 0? This becomes 0 at, which will be the point of minima. This becomes 0 at x = 1/3. And if this is the minima, then till x = 1/3, the curve should indeed be decreasing, right? So when you come across problems that ask you to determine maxima minima for a polynomial, for a quadratic polynomial especially, then what you could do is you could either use the calculus method, right? Differentiate, find out the point of minima maxima, or you could use complete the squares method. Either ways, you will be able to figure out whether roots exist or not, and if they do exist, what is their value. ये थोड़ा सा tricky question है, right? See if you can. Let me give you a minute to read this question before I discuss. So what are we given? एक इक्वेशन दे रखा है x minus a into x minus b minus 1 equals 0, right? तो ये equal to 0 तो इसको इक्वेशन बना देता है. अगर मैं इसको पॉलिनोमियल की तरह कंसिडर करूं fx, है ना, एफ एक्स इक्वल टू एक्स माइनस ए इंटू एक्स माइनस बी माइनस वन, राइट. अब ये दिखने में तो क्वाड्रेटिक ही होगा, राइट. दिस इज अ क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन, राइट. और इस क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन का ए क्या है? ए विल बी द कोफिशिएंट ऑफ एक्स स्क्वायर. सो कोफिशिएंट ऑफ एक्स स्क्वायर इज 1, which means it's positive, which means the curve will be a upward opening curve because A is positive, right? And the question says that that's all it gives actually, right? But अगर आप ऑप्शन पढ़ते हो तो समझ में आ रहा है कि 3 ऑप्शन में बोल रहा है बोथ रूट्स, और चौथा ऑप्शन भी एक रूट और एक और रूट है, तो 2 रूट तो एग्जिस्ट करते ही हैं, तो इसका डी 0 नहीं होगा, मतलब नेगेटिव या 0 नहीं है, इसका डी पॉजिटिव है, राइट. सो आई नो इट्स लाइक दिस. Okay, so now we are also given this condition b is greater than a, और यहाँ पे भी a और b दिया हुआ है. तो इसका फायदा क्या है? इसका फायदा ये ऐसा कुछ है, राइट. यू लुक एट f of a. अगर मैं x की जगह a डालूं तो ये क्या आएगा? 0 माइनस a माइनस a विल बिकम 0. सो ये पूरा टर्म 0 हो जाएगा, 0 माइनस 1 मतलब माइनस 1 आ जाएगा. सो f of a is minus 1. If I now put f of b, if I put b in this equation, in this polynomial, that will also become 0. 0 minus 1 will also become minus 1. Right? So basically what this means is that f of a and f of b are both negative. Right? और अगर आपको कर्व मालूम है a इक्वल टू, या तो कर्व मालूम होना चाहिए या ये पता होना चाहिए a इक्वल टू 1, a पॉजिटिव जब होता है और d जो है जब नॉन नेगेटिव हो तो the signs will change as plus minus plus for a equal a greater than 0 वाला केस, and minus plus minus for a being negative, right? So इधर a positive है, so it will be plus minus plus, मतलब माइनस वाला जो साइन है, रीजन है, वो दोनों रूट्स अल्फा और बीटा के बीच में है. तो f of a और f of b यहीं पे कहीं बनना चाहिए, मतलब a और b यहीं पे होंगे कहीं पे. a b is greater than a मतलब a लेफ्ट में होगा, b राइट में होगा, right? So this is what it will look like. So what do I notice? Are both roots lying in the range of a, b? तो a और b के बीच में तो कोई भी रूट नहीं है, तो फर्स्ट ऑप्शन गलत हो गया. दूसरा ऑप्शन बोला both roots lie between माइनस इन्फिनिटी एंड a, राइट. तो माइनस इन्फिनिटी और a के बीच में ये वाला रूट तो आ रहा है, बट बीटा नहीं आएगा. सिमिलरली ऑप्शन सी सेज बोथ द रूट्स लाई इन द रेंज b टू इन्फिनिटी. तो b से लेके इन्फिनिटी तक अगर मैं जाता हूं तो एक ही रूट मिलेगा, उसमें बीटा अल्फा नहीं आएगा, तो सी भी गलत हो गया, राइट. एंड व्हाट अबाउट डी? वन रूट इन माइनस इन्फिनिटी टू ए, राइट. इस रेंज में इंडीड वन रूट है और दूसरे रेंज में इंडीड दूसरा रूट है, राइट. सो वन रूट लाइज इन द रेंज माइनस इन्फिनिटी टू ए एंड द अदर रूट लाइज इन द रेंज बी टू इन्फिनिटी, राइट. सो करेक्ट आंसर ऑप्शन डी. ओके. अच्छा, हमने अभी क्वाड्रेटिक के नेचर ऑफ रूट्स के बारे में समझाया ना, एंड वी आल्सो लर्नड हाउ टू डील विद द ग्राफ, राइट. द नेक्स्ट कपल ऑफ क्वेश्चंस वी विल स्टिल बी डीलिंग विद नेचर ऑफ रूट्स, बट इट विल टेक अस इन अनदर डायरेक्शन, राइट. एक बार देखते हैं क्या हो रहा है. यहाँ पे फाइंड द पॉसिबल वैल्यूज ऑफ k सच दैट द इक्वेशन हैज रियल रूट्स. तो रियल रूट देखते ही मुझे पता है कंडीशन क्या होनी चाहिए. रियल रूट्स इफ डिस्क्रिमिनेंट इज ग्रेटर दैन और इक्वल टू 0. अब डिस्क्रिमिनेंट क्या होगा इस इक्वेशन का? b स्क्वायर दैट्स k होल स्क्वायर माइनस 4 इंटू a विच इज 1 इंटू c विच इज 9 हैज टू बी ग्रेटर दैन इक्वल टू 0. तो ये मेरा इक्वेशन क्या बन रहा है? k स्क्वायर माइनस 36 इज ग्रेटर दैन इक्वल टू 0, राइट. बहुत सारे लोग इस पॉइंट पे क्या करते हैं? डायरेक्टली k स्क्वायर ग्रेटर दैन इक्वल टू 36 करते हैं और फिर बोलते हैं k ग्रेटर दैन इक्वल टू 6 कर दो, और ये तरीका गलत होगा, राइट. यहाँ पे गलतियां होंगी, राइट. सो it is never, just keep in mind that you must never take, you must never take a square root in an inequality. inequality में कभी स्क्वायर रूट मत कंसिडर कीजिएगा, इनइक्वालिटी को डायरेक्टली सॉल्व भी करना पड़ेगा. तो यहाँ पे देखो एक बार इनइक्वालिटी, यहाँ पे क्वाड्रेटिक इनइक्वालिटी है, मतलब क्वाड्रेटिक पॉलिनोमियल है, ठीक है. क्वाड्रेटिक पॉलिनोमियल का तो कर्व मालूम है मुझे. इस क्वाड्रेटिक पॉलिनोमियल के बारे में व्हाट डू आई नो? आई नो दैट इट्स a इज 1 व्हिच मींस a इज पॉजिटिव, और इसका डिस्क्रिमिनेंट क्या है? b 0 है, तो b स्क्वायर माइनस 4 इंटू 1 इंटू माइनस 36, तो ये पॉजिटिव ही आएगा ना. तो d ग्रेटर देन 0 आ रहा है और a भी ग्रेटर देन 0 आ रहा है, तो मतलब कर्व will intersect at 2 points, right? And in this case the sign, if you remember, the sign changes. जब भी a पॉजिटिव होता है और रूट्स एग्जिस्ट करते हैं तब प्लस माइनस प्लस होता है जब a ग्रेटर देन 0. अगर a नेगेटिव होता तो आप बोलते माइनस प्लस माइनस, राइट? तो यहां पे मैं कहूंगा कि इसके फैक्टर्स क्या हैं, अगले स्टेप पे वो करते हैं. k प्लस 6 इंटू k माइनस 6 इज सपोज टू बी पॉजिटिव, राइट? तो मैं कहूंगा यार इसमें 6 और माइनस 6 तो रूट्स है, प्लस 6 एंड माइनस 6 आर द रूट्स, राइट? बट to the left of the root will be positive, to the right of the other root will be positive, between the roots will be negative because plus minus plus. और मुझे कौन सा साइन निकालना है, क्वेश्चन पे आ जाओ, इनइक्वालिटी पे आ जाओ, ग्रेटर देन इक्वल टू 0. मतलब मुझे निकालना है वो साइन जहां पे पॉजिटिव हो या 0, राइट? तो पॉजिटिव कहां है, तो यहां पे प्लस वाला साइन लेफ्ट मोस्ट रीजन में और राइट मोस्ट रीजन में. मतलब आंसर क्या होगा, k लेस देन द, यहां पे ग्रेटर देन इक्वल टू है ना, सो लेफ्ट वाला रूट है -6, तो k लेस देन इक्वल टू -6 और k ग्रेटर देन इक्वल टू द राइट मोस्ट रूट विच इज 6. तो k या तो -6 के पहले अकर होगा या +6 के बाद अकर होगा, तभी इन दोनों इस पर्टिकुलर प्रॉब्लम को हम सॉल्व कर सकते हैं, राइट? आई होप दैट्स क्लियर. Here's another one, similar property. Find the range of values for b for which the equation does not possess real roots. So it should not have real roots. When does a polynomial not have real roots? If its discriminant is negative, right? तो यहाँ a तो मुझे पता है पॉजिटिव है, right? और discriminant नेगेटिव है, right? तो curve will always lie above the x-axis. यही मतलब हुआ. Right? Find the range of values for b for which this equation does not possess. तो b के कौन से वैल्यूज होंगे जहां पे इस क्वाड्रेटिक के रियल रूट्स ना हो. d लेस देन 0, d क्या होगा, b स्क्वायर माइनस 4 इंटू 2 इंटू 2 इज लेस देन 0. सो b स्क्वायर माइनस 4 2 8 2 16, b स्क्वायर माइनस 16 इज b स्क्वायर माइनस 4 स्क्वायर इज लेस देन 0. मतलब b प्लस 4 इंटू b माइनस 4 इज लेस देन 0. Right? b plus 4 less than 0 means b is less than $9, right? And if b is greater than 4, right? So that becomes my solution. Either b is less than -4, less than or equal to it, or b is greater than 4. क्यों? क्योंकि मुझे पता है इसके रियल रूट्स okay, wait. I skipped out a point here, right? So once I factorized it, मुझे पता है इसके क्रिटिकल पॉइंट्स ही रूट्स होंगे. जीरोस, इस पॉलिनॉम के जीरोस क्या है, -4 एंड +4. तो इमेजिन करो ये रहा -4, ये रहा +4. तो इसका कर्व अपवर्ड स्लोपिंग है कि डाउनवर्ड स्लोपिंग है, वी हैव ऑलरेडी एस्टैब्लिश्ड इट्स अपवर्ड स्लोपिंग, राइट? एंड अच्छा नहीं, वो वाला कर्व नहीं बना रहे अब हम, b के लिए इन्फर कर रहे हैं. तो b का जो पॉलिनोमियल है -4 और +4 पे 0 बन जाता है, राइट? और b स्क्वायर का कोफिशिएंट 1 है विच इज पॉजिटिव, तो प्लस माइनस प्लस लिख दो साइंस. मुझे कौन सा साइन चाहिए, लेस देन 0. मुझे नेगेटिव वाला साइन चाहिए, विच मीन्स b लाइज बिटवीन -4 एंड +4. So b is greater than -4 but less than +4, right? And only in this range will the discriminant be negative, and hence roots will not exist. Find how many integral values of k will exist if it is known that the equation x square minus 3k plus 3x plus k has two distinct roots, right? Important है, two distinct roots मतलब दो अलग अलग रूट होने चाहिए. दो अलग अलग रूट कब होते हैं, जब डिस्क्रिमिनेंट पॉजिटिव होता है, राइट। और ये दोनों रूट्स जो है 0 और 1 के बीच में लाई करने चाहिए, राइट। विच मीन्स योर फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू नो ये क्वाड्रेटिक है, इसका ए तो पॉजिटिव है, ठीक है। क्वेश्चन बोल रहा है 2 रूट होने चाहिए, मतलब डी भी पॉजिटिव होगा। और इसका कर्व तो मैं मतलब प्रेडिक्ट तो कर सकता हूँ, ऐसा ही बनेगा कर्व, राइट, इंटरसेक्टिंग एट द रूट्स अल्फा एंड बीटा and sloping opening upwards because A is positive, right? Now if both roots, these are the roots alpha and beta, both roots lie in the interval 1 to 0 to 1, so ये रहा 0 और ये रहा 1, right? How many integer values of K will exist? right? सबसे पहले D greater than 0 को solve कर लेते हैं, right? D here will be B square, that's -3 का whole square, that's 9, minus 4k is greater than 0, which means you bring the 4k there, 9 is greater than 4k, which means k will be less than 4 by 9. K must be less than 4 by 9. The other condition I'll get इज दैट अगर 0 और 1 के बीच में है तो 0 पे मुझे पता है साइन क्या होना चाहिए, पॉजिटिव, और 1 पे भी साइन क्या होना चाहिए, पॉजिटिव। सो f ऑफ 0 ग्रेटर देन 0 और f ऑफ 1 ग्रेटर देन 0, दोनों ट्राई करते हैं। f ऑफ 0 क्या होगा, अगर x की जगह 0 डाल दें तो k, तो k इज ग्रेटर देन 0। और f ऑफ 1 क्या होगा, x को 1 डालो, 1 -3 प्लस k ऑल्सो मस्ट बी पॉजिटिव, राइट। सो k को यही रखते हैं, 1 - 3 is -2, so I'll get k greater than +2 and k greater than 0, right? k greater than 0 becomes irrelevant, अगर 2 से बड़ा है वैल्यू तो 0 से भी बड़ा ही होगा, right? So k greater than 2 is what we will retain, and we also have k less than 9 by 4, so not 4 by 9, this is 9 by 4, right? 9 by 4 मतलब 2.25, k less than 2.25 and k must be greater than 2, so between 2 and 2.25 is my range, right? And are there any integer values in that range from between 2 and 2.25? No, there is none, right? So your correct answer to this question is option C. है ना, ये आखिरी 2 questions है। This one talks about minimum value, right? You remember the completing the squares method? I'm going to do that. Right, I'm going to write this fx as +3 common ले लो, 13 by 3 minus 6x by 3 plus x square, right? इसको मैंने ऐसे simplify कर लिया। So what am I getting? I'm getting 3 times x square minus 2x plus 13 by 3। तो a स्क्वायर माइनस 2ab में इसके अलावा +1 और -1 भी डाल देते हैं, तो ये +1 जो है इन दोनों के साथ कंबाइन कर जाएगा, ये तीनों कंबाइन करके बनाएंगे 3 times x minus 1 the whole square। और फिर इसके बाद एक जो टर्म बचा है, उसके अलावा क्या टर्म बचा होगा, उसके अलावा बचा होगा -13/3। Now as you can see इस पर्टिकुलर वैल्यू में हम हमेशा एक स्क्वायर ऐड कर रहे हैं, तो मतलब इससे बड़ा ही बनेगा आंसर, which means this should be its minimum। right? This should be its point of minima, right? So minimum value of the function ओके वेट, इसमें एक गलती और हो गई ना, गलती नहीं बट मतलब वो 1 ऐड करना रह गया, राइट। सो x minus 1 whole square will be these two terms with this term, but I have 13 by 3 minus 1, that will be plus 13 minus 3, 10 by 3. So plus 10 by 3 into 3 will in fact be 10, right? So this becomes 3 times x minus 1 whole square plus 10, right? तो जब ये 0 हो जाएगा तो fx का वैल्यू 10 होगा, और अगर ये x बेसिकली व्हेन x इक्वल टू 1 देन fx विल बी 10. What happens when x is not 1? Let's say x is 2, 3 और -5, -6. तो यहाँ पे कोई वैल्यू आ जाएगी जिसको स्क्वायर करके हम पॉजिटिव नंबर निकाल लेंगे, उसको 3 से मल्टीप्लाई करेंगे, दैट विल बिकम एन इवन बिगर पॉजिटिव नंबर and you're adding it to 10, which means you'll always get a value which is more than 10, which means 10 is the minimum value, right? Option B. Right? This is the method of completing squares. Minima या maxima निकाल सकते हैं, right? And lastly, I know we haven't done cubic equations, but I hope that this question makes sense. This is the last question I'm going to discuss today. क्या बोल रहे हैं? फाइंड द कॉमन रूट और रूट्स, राइट? तो कॉमन रूट क्या होता है? सबसे पहले रूट क्या होता है? वेर LHS and RHS are equal, right? Which means this value should be 0 and this value should be 0, right? That is the root. तो कॉमन रूट का क्या मतलब हुआ? ऐसा एक वैल्यू x का जो इधर भी डालो और इधर भी डालो तो सेटिस्फाई करेगा, राइट? तो x का ऐसा वैल्यू निकालना है इन दोनों कर्व्स के लिए, राइट? नाउ if by giving the same input you are expected to get the output as 0, then can't you directly equate the two expressions? Can't we directly say, then let's say this is fx and this is gx, right? Then can't we say, first step, if you want to find the common root, you put f of x equals g of x. तो ये करते हैं यहाँ पे, एक्स क्यूब माइनस एक्स स्क्वायर माइनस 2x माइनस 12 इक्वल्स 2x क्यूब माइनस 11x स्क्वायर प्लस 19x माइनस 12. तो अगर मैं सब कुछ लेफ्ट में ले आऊँ तो ये बनेगा एक्स क्यूब माइनस 11x स्क्वायर प्लस 1 हो जाएगा ये, तो माइनस 10x स्क्वायर हो गया, 19x माइनस 2x, सो दैट विल बी 17x okay. So you can see this doesn't really get me anywhere, right? तो fx equal to gx ट्राई कर सकते हो, बट यहाँ नहीं डालना चाहिए. मुझे ये हिंट कहाँ से मिलेगा, right? Where will I get that hint? Remember, right? For common root, maybe I'll write this as a pointer very quickly. For common root, what you should be doing is that you can either put fx equal to gx and solve it, or you could also solve a into fx equals, or rather a ले लेते हैं ना, a छोड़ देते हैं, k into fx equal to l into g of x. कोई भी दो कांस्टेंट ऐसे ले लो, fx को k से मल्टीप्लाई कर दो, gx को l से मल्टीप्लाई कर दो और फिर इक्वेट करो, ठीक है? नाउ व्हाई एम आई सेइंग दिस, राइट? आई से दिस बिकॉज इफ fx equal to 0, then k times fx will also be 0, correct? Similarly, if gx equal to 0, then l times gx should also be 0. But by multiplying them with k and l and equating them, I can probably hope to cancel out x cube. दोनों तरफ से देखो, अगर मैं fx equal to gx करता हूं तो यहाँ पे मैं करता है x क्यूब माइनस एक्स स्क्वायर माइनस 2x माइनस 12 इक्वल्स 2x क्यूब माइनस 11x स्क्वायर प्लस 19x माइनस 12, राइट? बट इसका मुझे कुछ फायदा नहीं मिलता क्योंकि x क्यूब रह जाएगा. दिस विल रिमेन, continue to remain as a quadratic, as a cubic equation. But if I try the second approach, what I can do is I can multiply the first equation with 2, right? So this becomes 2x cube minus 2x square minus 4x minus 24, and then I can equate this to the other equation, 2x cube minus 11x square plus 19x minus 12, and then 2x cube will cancel out. इसको सॉल्व करते हैं, लेफ्ट में ले आते हैं, 11x square minus 2x square will be 9x square, minus 19 minus 4 will be minus 23x, and this is minus 24 plus 12, that will become minus 12 equals 0, है ना? ऐसे 9 into 12, 12 into 9 is 108, right? तो 108 का प्रोडक्ट चाहिए, बट सम ऑफ टर्म शुड बी minus 23. कैन यू थिंक ऑफ अ वैल्यू? 12 into 9 is 108, right? Negative aega obviously, right? And you want this, you want sum of the terms to be minus 23. Let's quickly think about this. And you also want their sum to be negative, right? One of them is negative, the other one isn't. Gosh. Yeah, 27 into 4, right? So this becomes 9x square minus 27x plus 4x minus 12 equals 0. So you'll basically end up getting 9x plus 4 into x minus 3. Right? Which means you'll get the two values as x is either equal to minus 4 upon 9 or it might be equal to 3. Right? बट एक बात याद रखना कि ये दोनों जो सॉल्यूशंस मिले हैं मुझे fx इक्वल टू gx के लिए मिले हैं, राइट? बट नॉट ओनली शुड दे बी इक्वल फॉर कॉमन रूट्स, they should also be equal to 0, right? So now you check in the end after doing one of these two steps. Third step number 1 is do this or this, but step number 2 is always to check whatever solution you get, you check, right? तो f क्या आएगा? f of, एक बार चेक करो, f of 3 डाल के देखो, this will be 27, right? f will be 3 cube, that's 27 minus 9 minus 6 minus 12, ये 0 बन रहा है. 9 plus 6 15 plus 12 27, ये बिल्कुल 0 बन गया, right? How about the other one, g would be 2 into 27, that's 54 minus 11 into 9 99, 19 into 3 is 57 and minus 12, right? 99 plus 12, 99 plus 12 कितना है ये? 111, और इन दोनों का सम भी 111 है, ये दो 0 अंदर, right? So x equal to 3 satisfies both, and quickly if you check, no, this one does not, right? This one will not, right? So basically in the end, make sure to check, right? That's the way to determine common roots. To work with common roots in a problem, you can either equate fxn equal to gx, or you could do afx equal to bgx like constants, so that you eliminate the term with the highest degree. और फिर उसके बाद सॉल्व करने के बाद जो वैल्यू आता है उसको जरूर चेक करके देख लेना, does that make the two functions 0 or not. Okay, on that note we come to the end of today's session, right? I hope that you guys understood these concepts and continue to keep learn. You just need to join the Unacademy app. There are plenty of batches and special classes by both me and other educators. You can use them as trial sessions to experience the app, but more importantly, make sure that you keep learning. Well, that happens if you get a plus subscription, right? All you need to do is access Unacademy app and start your learning journey. To subscribe, download the app, select your goal as CAT, and you need to make a payment. You need to buy one of these subscription plans. You can see 12 month, 24-month plans are the more preferred plans, which come at very, very economical rates, right? And even better, you get a 10% discount by using my referral code AV01, right? So make a note of it. Unacademy as an app can help you prepare for a variety of courses, not just CAT, but for CAT, you get tons of free material on our YouTube channel. So do like, share, and do follow our Telegram channel as well, right? All right, guys, thank you. Have a great day and hope to catch you guys tomorrow back at 8 p.m. This is me signing off.